Go.
Thanks, Ron.
So we're with Doug and Adam from BizBuySell. I think you guys are pretty familiar with both of them, but I'm gonna hand this off to Doug right now and let him take over, and then I think he's gonna hand it to Adam. And we thank you just again for attending today, and we will have the recording and the slides available to you by end of day today. So Doug, take it off.
Thank you, Ron. Thanks, everybody. George. Good to be with you again. We love coming on your webinar and giving our updates on our trends on our Insight Report. And I know it's always been well received. And before that, we're going to go into a couple of updates. I'll give you just some quick update on what's happening at BizBuySell. And then we're going to dive into the meat of the matter, which is Adam presenting the Insight Report that we do quarterly. And then if there's time for Q&A, and I think, Ron, you tend to take those questions and we can kind of take them as we go along.
Yep.
So BizBuySell, it occurs to me, I think today or tomorrow was the day that we actually all went into lockdown. So we're celebrating a crazy anniversary. And it's pretty neat to see where we've come and where we are after 2 years of COVID. And, you know, as BizBuySell, we greatly appreciate the support that we received from brokers through COVID, and in turn, we hope that we have supported you, you know, as we've gone through and survived, and they're now coming out of this pandemic. So our main focus is to help you be more successful. And to that end, I want to give a shout out to our Broker Advisory Council. Hey, Ron, there's your picture. Look at you. Welcome aboard. Ron's our newest member of our advisory council. So we've got Emmett, Russell, and Lisa, Scott, Matt, and Dustin, Ron, Jessica, and Steve worked really closely with this group throughout last year and into 2022. They've been very instrumental in helping us get better in terms of understanding, you know, where we can serve brokers better. And the feedback and the ideas have been great for us, and it's really helped us getting some new initiatives going, which I'll talk to you about in a second. We also launched an initiative where we've got now field reps specifically engaging with our broker customers. So Linnea is based in our office in Richmond, Virginia. Isaac Newton is our resident physicist. He's based in Dallas. And then Jen is new. She's based in San Diego, and she's going to be reaching out to our California brokers here in a bit once she gets through her full training and onboarding. So we're trying to focus on you, the broker, and to help enable your success. And Linnea, Isaac, and Jen have done a great job so far in doing that. And we've gotten great feedback from brokers about the service that they've been providing you. So the best measure that we can have of our success as a business with brokers is a Net Promoter Score. And you all have maybe seen this working with other companies. Some of you actually may employ this in your own businesses, where you ask a question: how likely is it that you would recommend, you know, your company to a friend or a colleague? And so the NPS is derived by taking, on a scale of 1 to 10, anybody who scores a 9 or a 10 in answer to that question is known as a promoter. Anybody who is I think 0 to 6 is considered a detractor. And then the 7s and 8s are considered neutral. So the way that the Net Promoter Score works is that the promoters are subtracted from the detractors, and the passes are thrown out. And I'm really happy to report that based on our survey of brokers at the end of last year, BizBuySell scored a 50 Net Promoter Score. So that means we are positive 50, 62% of respondents who answered the question, how likely is it that you would recommend BizBuySell to a friend or colleague, gave us a 9 or a 10. And we're really, really happy about that. And that's a big jump up. It's 15 points up from where we were in 2020. So thank you to brokers. You know, we're happy about this. If you Google what an NPS score or what an NPS score of 50 means, you know, we're in company of other firms like Apple and BMW who score these kinds of scores. So again, we couldn't be doing this without your support, business brokers, and we appreciate serving you in the way that we do. So what are we doing well, and where can we get better? So another question in the survey is, how would you rate BizBuySell's overall performance in helping you source buyers? And as you can see, between above average and excellent, that's about 73%. So we think we're doing a good job of sourcing buyers. That's probably true for everybody that's on the call here. But where we see a real opportunity is the next question, which was, how would you rate BizBuySell's overall performance in helping you source owners that sign new engagements? So these are these coveted seller leads. And as you can see here on the scale between poor, below average, average, above average, and excellent, only 26%. So it's actually kind of flipped from the previous slide. Only 26% of respondents say that we do a good job, above average or excellent, in sourcing seller leads. So that is an area of opportunity for us. And that's something that we've been engaging with very directly with the Broker Advisory Council, among others. And so we have an initiative where we're really seeking to source leads from sellers and supply them to brokers. So how are we going to do that? We get visitors that come to our site that are owners that are potentially interested in selling. You know, we want to try to find out at that point of their journey with us, you know, what is their situation, what is their intent, and what is their time frame to sell. And then we're developing a way to then match these owners who raise their hand and say, you know, yes, I would like to engage with a broker. Then we're going to be the matchmaker, and we're going to supply that that seller opportunity to a broker within their market area. So we're also going to see if brokers might be interested in certain criteria like type of business, location, financials, time frame. And then we're going to be doing some marketing campaigns because we need to get this to scale. We did some testing last year, had some great results from what we did it, but it was a very manual process, and we're trying to look for a real automated way to do it. So look for more to come from us on that. And if you have feedback, if you have ideas, you know, please send them my way. So another initiative for us is getting better at our comps. You know, in our surveying, about 60% of the brokers that surveyed, that say that they use our valuation data. And so the process of selling a business, as everybody on this call knows, begins with evaluation. So if BizBuySell can get better at developing comps, it's going to get a better experience in getting a small business to sell. And it's going to also enable a broker to better engage with the seller if we can get started on that at the outset. We're also going to then use this to improve the broker profile. So in our broker directory, it's going to be a way for you to highlight your comps and your sold listings and also your performance, and it's going to help you stand out apart from others in our directory. So the first step that we're doing, and we're launching this very shortly, is we're making improvements to our flow when a listing is added or when it's edited. I'm just going to show you a screenshot here. So in this screenshot, we're just trying to get this flow of entering in this information in a better place. We presented this to the Broker Advisory Council a couple of weeks ago, got some really good feedback, and we're just really focused on capturing the right info up front so that we can get better comps. And then, from that, we can develop ways to highlight those comps for brokers. So again, more to come on that as well. Stay tuned. And if you have feedback, again, please let me know. I would also like to give a plug for the IBBA coming up in May. So thanks, Ron, for doing that. We are also going to be attending. We were there in October last year. I'm on the conference planning committee, so there's a lot of excitement, a lot of attendees. I think it's going to be a lot more well attended than it was in October. And I'm also leading a workshop as well as Ron. So there's going to be a lot of good content. So I hope everyone can make it. I was just at the International Franchise Association conference in San Diego a couple of weeks ago, and it was really refreshing to be in a conference hall, in a meeting with exhibitors, with attendees, maskless, and no one feeling concerned or in danger. That was really refreshing. So hopefully you all can make it, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Adam. And Adam, please take it away.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I can't believe it's been 2 years since Ron and George started kicking off these webinars, and really fantastic. And I always appreciate the opportunity to speak. And in developing our insight report, all of it's coming from business brokers, really. The transactions that are reported to us, and then, your thoughtful survey responses and just the opportunity to speak with all of you. So all I'm doing is just summarizing what you're telling me. I really couldn't do this without you. So let's get into the fun stuff. And if you have any questions along the way, please ask questions. As much as I love just speaking to my screen, it's much more fun to have a conversation, but no pressure. Okay, let's see if I can do this. I'm going to try and skip ahead a slide. Here we go. And I failed. Let's try again. There we go. Okay, so something new. As I said, we're getting this content from you, really, the transactions that you provide and the survey information and whatnot. And let's see if I can go back here. It's really, it's the brokers that are, I've never sold a business. It's the brokers that are helping me understand what's going on so I can report to the market. Okay, there we go. So what I want to give everyone an opportunity for is, if you have content, if you write content for your website, or you have ideas for content that you think you can offer to our audience, please reach out to me, and I'd be happy to send you our contributor agreement and get you published in our learning center or what have you. We have a few people that are already taking advantage of this, but it's a great opportunity to help entrepreneurs out there. And also, obviously get your brokerage out to buyers and sellers. So I guess just a few caveats. The information has to be informative, not so salesy, unique, not repurposed, and just really consistent, strong content. But once published on our site, it'll go out on social media. It'll be included in our buyer, seller, and broker newsletters. And it's just a really great, opportunity. So my email address is here. And I think, you can access the recording or reach out to me if you have ideas for content or you want to contribute there. So please do. Okay, our insight report. So just standard stuff. Once a quarter, we publish our insight report, transactions reported by participating business brokers, and then we have survey data from our owners, buyers, and brokers, along with unsponsored commentary. I get on the phone with a lot of you guys and just ask, hey, what's going on? Discuss some of the results and make sure that everything's accurate and what you're seeing in your market. We do this primarily for PR, not just for BizBuySell, but really for the whole business for sale market. I think everyone agrees that not enough people understand that you could buy or sell a business. And really, this is our mission, to get the word out there through this great report that we work on each quarter. And with that, I want to give a big shout out to Brenda Krause on my team, who really has done a lot of the heavy lifting on creating this report. And hopefully one of these days I can get her on this webinar so she can actually walk you through it herself. And then again, it's to fuel your marketing. I always use this example from We Sell Restaurants. Feel free to use the data however you see fit. The story right now, as I'll get into, it's really positive for sellers. It looks like this is a really great opportunity to sell your business. And we're starting to see more sellers buy into that and take action with great success. So, feel free to use it however you want. If you want to reach out to me, I'd be happy to collaborate with you on that, or give ideas or discuss ideas or what have you. Okay, so the year-end 21 insight report. It's a great story. I mean, we finished the year really strong. So transactions in Q4 actually surpassed the pre-pandemic numbers in Q4 of 2019, and we're up 28% versus last quarter. And what's really interesting is typically we see transactions dip in the fourth quarter. However, this year we saw transactions accelerate. Based on our broker survey, 74% of brokers said that their sales were steady to up in the fourth quarter, which typically is just not what we see. So, really great sign for the momentum carrying into 2022, that we're on a return to normal times. So great sign there. The record sale prices continue, 325,000 median sale price for 2021. That's up 16% year over year. And it's really because the demand continues for these strong businesses. 60% of buyers surveyed indicated that strong financials were a must-have in their business purchase, versus 18% looking for discounted opportunities. I could dig up the data if anyone's curious, but we asked the same question back when the pandemic first hit, And those numbers were much more even. In fact, I think more people were looking for discounts because they were, that was a perception. Everything's impacted, so I can get a great deal. That's not really the case anymore. But the real question is, when will the supply return? We have tons of buyers. The buyer activity on BizBuySell is very strong. The opportunities are just still a little weak. And when we asked brokers, what are the top 3 factors that prevented more transactions in 2021? They're all related to sellers and owners and inventory. Seller unrealistic expectations, I think we always see that as a number one. Everyone thinks their baby's worth $1 billion naturally. But owners unable to sell due to poor performance, ranking at 38%, low supply of quality businesses for sale, 39%. Once we start returning more and more to normal, those are going to come down to hopefully more reasonable levels. And with the built up supply of baby boomers, it should be a perfect storm, hopefully this year, for a return to pre-pandemic levels throughout the entire year. But it is a really tough environment for owners. I'm going to go through some survey questions that we asked owners about everything that they had to experience in 2021 and give you some data to take a look at. So shortages really sum up 2021. Lack of quality businesses, because 52% of owners indicated that they were negatively impacted by the pandemic. It's a very large number. And there was multiple ways that they were impacted. 64% negatively impacted by labor shortages, 75% supply chain, which we all know about that, and then 72% rising costs. So, a lot of challenges there that many are still navigating and trying to get around. And then there was Omicron. So half of owners were impacted by Omicron, and it's not just in terms of, forced shutdowns like we had seen in 2020. There was sales declines, of course, 64%, but there was also mass staff shortages where employees were out sick or concerned about returning to work or what have you. So it just kind of compounded the issue to the point where 35% of owners said that they had actually temporarily closed or considered closing on their own just because of all the issues that they were facing there. And it really looks like this sort of pandemic fatigue is the new burnout. Burnout's always been a top reason for selling in general, but 43% of owners are considering selling in large part due to pandemic fatigue, which is completely understandable. And you just have to ask yourself, when is enough enough? When are all of these things really going to rise up and cause, especially you think about this silver tsunami that is expected to hit, cause people to just kind of say, all right, I'm out, gonna ride off from the sunset, things look good, let's go. So I have a quote in here from Jen Swearington of Jenny Threads Inc. in South Carolina. She says, I've run my business for 18 years, solid with profit, though on a very small scale, but I'm ready to move on to other pursuits and retire from sewing and studio production. Pandemic put the nail in the coffin. I have dozens of other quotes just like this. People just saying, hey, you know what, I'm done. So I think that all of these trends are really going to lead to more and more sellers entering in 2022. So that's what I'm expecting there. And it seems like brokers agree. So many of the brokers that I've spoken with have given me that same sentiment. But we again surveyed brokers and asked, do you believe more or less business owners will be selling their business in 2022 versus 2021? And I feel like brokers tend to be a little more optimistic in general, but this very strongly indicates that the majority of you think that there's going to be slightly to significantly more than we saw last year, which is great considering the way that we finished off the year. The 1% of people indicating significantly less. I wish I knew who they were so I could talk to them and figure out why. I don't know, maybe they're just having a bad day. All right. Do you feel today's business for sale market conditions favor buyers or sellers? This same question asked last year, buyers heavily. Now you can see it's much more of a blend. If I was just to peek at this chart, look away, peek, look away, peek, look away, I couldn't tell you who was benefiting. So, moving more towards a balanced market. And, the big part of that is just inventory returning so that there's, a more equal, even market. So, all right, but are the sellers ready? So we're talking about the sellers entering the market. Dustin from Horizon Business Brokers, who I saw say hi earlier on chat, proposed this in last quarter's BBP update right here on this webinar. So I asked a few questions to try and understand if they're ready. If you were to sell your business today, would you have 3+ years of clean financial records to support your asking price? Apparently 79% said yes. I was surprised by that. 21% say no. Okay. If you were to sell your business today, how prepared are you to sell your business? So this lines up with the data that Lisa presented last week from the market pulse. It seems like most owners are not prepared. And, this is a challenge that we all have to work around. So another reason why I'm saying, if you have content that you want to provide to BizBuySell that we could throw out there to owners to get them more prepared, we're happy to help assist with that and, work together. So the final question we asked is, do you know the value of your business? 55% say yes, approximately. 8% have had a professional valuation, but 38% say no. So I'm curious what the approximate, what indicates or validates an approximate estimate. But I do think that this is really the anchor to get owners more engaged with the selling process, is moving more people over to the professional appraisal and giving them a strong idea of what their business is worth. So thank you, Dustin, for making me ask those questions. I think that they're really interesting. And with that, let's open it up for some discussion Q&A. What trends are you seeing in your market? What do you want to see from BizBuySell in 2022? Anything, whatever you got. How do you feel about Matt Olson getting traded from the A's to the Braves? Because I'm heartbroken.
You can use the Q&A or the chat feature there. Yeah, I'd be curious to know on that last one, the valuation approximate. I think that's what they want for retirement, maybe. I'm not sure, but be interested to know what that looks like.
Yeah, I have an idea that it's probably not accurate.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Pierre tells us that Freeman is gone.
They have the DH in the National League, so maybe, you have that double tandem, left-handed strong first baseman. I don't know, but he was my favorite player. He's my son's favorite player, Matt Olson. So it was a sad day for me.
You start talking all the technical baseball stuff. All I'm hearing is the Red Sox didn't win. The Red Sox.
I like that too.
Hey, Adam, I'm going to get us a little bit up more on track. There was a question. There was a question in the Q&A. It says, how is Q4 transactions of 2,364, 28% higher than 2,283 transactions in Q3?
I think that was year over year. I think I was referencing Q4 of 2020.
Do you want to go back to the slide?
Sure, let me see. Or you caught me in some bad math, but hopefully not. 28%. Okay, so I think that is, so it's a typo, and I think that is supposed to be versus last year.
Got it.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, good catch. Whoever offered that up.
Yep.
I don't see any other questions. Oh, here's one.
The only one I saw was just the, there's two other things I saw in here. Are you seeing any dip in buyer activity recently with the current inflation numbers and the conflict in Ukraine?
We're not. The buyer activity has been very steady, and it's, it took a slight dip, well, it took a strong dip, I should say, in March of 2020 when the pandemic hit and we had this giant freeze. But it is steadily, been up since that point. I think buyers are just very opportunistic, and when whatever happens in the news comes to play, they actually think of it, maybe there's an opportunity for me to get something, not necessarily at a discount, but take advantage of weakness. So yeah, we haven't seen buyer activity dip whatsoever.
or traffic.
Yeah.
I see a question here. How do advisors who help these owners get ready to partner with BizBuySell? I'm not sure if I'm reading that question correctly. That could be like, how do you as an advisor get a seller to partner with us? And the way that I'll answer that question is, if it's your seller, we want that seller to have a positive experience with you, the advisor, as well as with BizBuySell. So we always say it goes back to, write a compelling listing, make sure that the photo is compelling, that the headline is attention grabbing, make sure that the financials are accurate and compelling. If you can eliminate or mediate confidentiality, I know that that's a very hot topic with a lot of sellers, but if you can educate sellers on what the process is going to be like, what they can expect, then all the better. So Nana, I hope I'm addressing that question correctly. If I'm not, just please let me know.
Yeah, and I see a question here from David, which I'd love to have a discussion about this. So he asks, based on the projections of anticipated retirements, when do you think supply of profitable businesses is likely to resume to normal levels? I'm really curious what the industry thinks about that. I mean, it seems like based on Q4, we're getting close to that point, but there's still a significant number of businesses that are, still trying to work their way back. In the Bay Area, I'll tell you, I don't see a lot of that. I mean, the restaurants out here, which were, notably hit, are packed. They're back to pre-pandemic activity from my viewpoint, even the higher end restaurants. So I don't know, that's a great question. And if anyone in the audience has any commentary on that, I'd love to hear it.
I'll just say that I think San Francisco as a market still has a ways to go in terms of rebound. But as I mentioned before, I was in San Diego at that conference a couple of weeks ago, and it was jumping down there. That gas lamp district by the convention center. It was a Saturday night, and people were out, and it just felt really good to be around that.
As a practitioner in the industry, I think partly my comment would be, we're a big part of that equation, and we need to help these companies get profitable. I'm still, I'm passing on businesses, and I'm seeing good companies that I'd love to sell, but they don't want to take the time to get where they need to be, in my opinion, to get to market. So unfortunately, they'll run to somebody else unprofitably and put themselves out on the marketplace. So, I think it's incumbent on us to work with these business owners and help them get where they need to be. If they're not, be honest with them about that, and help them develop some strategies to get there, because we're a big part of this process.
So George, is that just a desire? Like they just want to get out now? They don't want to spend another year?
Yeah, fatigue. A lot of, we run into a lot of business owners that are they've hit the wall and they're done. But I tell them, whether you're done or not, you've got to make the choice of what kind of value you want to receive for your life's work. And, you can be done. And four of 9 companies that I passed on last year were done. They went to another broker and they went to market. They're still on the market a year later. I see them on the websites. And it's disappointing because we could have spent the year getting them where they needed to be, but they didn't want to take that year to do that. And that's a part of the problem right now. It's fatigue, and it only makes them more fatigued, in my opinion, because they get their hopes up, and then there's this conflict. So anyway, that's I'll get off my soapbox.
No, that's interesting. I'm curious, what are the top 3 things that you see that owners should be doing to regain that value, or that you find yourself recommending more frequently?
Number 1, financial transparency. Get your financials in order. Stop living out of your business. And if you are living out of your business, not only stop, but then also identify those areas that you may or may not, a broker may or may not find. We see that happen all the time. I had a conversation with a colleague in Florida this morning where they had a company that had literally $400,000 in ad backs that other brokers weren't even seeing. And they were, the company was being turned over and saying, we couldn't get $1 million SBA loan. Well, they sold it for 1.9 and got a $1.6 million SBA note on the business because they understood how to get into the financials and get to the bottom line and show that the SDE was a heck of a lot higher than everybody else thought it was. So that's number one, owner involvement. Number two, you've got to get the owner to start to pull away from his business, work on it instead of in it. That's a critical one. The more they're in the business, the more difficult it becomes to convey to a new owner. That's part of the process of getting themselves moving on. And then number three, just having the systems and processes in place that will be easily understood and learnable by the new owner. Those are kind of critical components to be taking a look at. And then from our perspective, I'm going to add a fourth component. We really need to understand what we're selling. We need to take the time to get in there and really understand what it is that we're bringing to market and what we're selling.
That's great.
Yeah.
That actually sounds like a great article.
Adam will be in touch.
Yeah. How are your writing skills, George?
My family owned a newspaper.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, perfect.
So I see our friend Randy Hendershot from Sacramento. Hey, Randy. He wrote in with a comment. Says, I have a number of sellers in the valuation process that were delayed a month or so dealing with the Omicron wave and employee issues being out, but are back in gear now. So it does sound like a little bit of return to normalcy, which is great to see.
And it's changed. I mean, it runs from market to market. I mean, I'll say that, being in the Austin marketplace, we're, as far as business, it's booming. We're profitable. But, the employee issues, finding employees to help, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous right now. There's such a shortage of labor in this area. It's many people that are moving here.
Yep.
I see it all over the place when I talk to business owners.
Yep. Same here.
Yeah.
Same.
So, and we're going to deal with that, I think, for a while until we get through what they're calling the Great Resignation. However this developed and happened, we're dealing with it, and we need to get through it.
Yep. Yeah, I know a restaurant owner here in San Francisco who said that he can't open up half of his space to serve customers because he can't find staff to wait the tables. It's sad. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I had my mom in town. I took her out to Carmel for the week, and we were looking for a place to eat. And it seems like a lot of that is impacting the reviews online as well. Patrons, they aren't understanding of these, disruptions, having to wait a little bit longer. And all of a sudden they're getting 2-3 stars on Yelp because, I had to wait 45 minutes for my sandwich to come out.
Yeah.
So, it's tough.
Well, it depends on how creative the business owner is to adapt to the changes and how they, can communicate this and adjust and pivot, as we all like to say. It's interesting. I don't think we know on the whole, Russia-Ukraine thing right now. I'm not seeing. I think it's probably too soon. Seems like we see the COVID impact more clearly, but we'll wait and see. Obviously, but gosh, what a run of events for business owners. And it still seems like things are doing pretty well. I can't imagine that once people get to a point where they feel stabilized, they're gonna get out of here pretty quick. So when exactly that confidence resumes, but I think our industry needs to be prepared. And I really think, I feel like I harp on this a lot, but between last week with IBBA and this week with BizBuySell, and then our survey coming out, which is more internal really, but these two reports, I think it's kind of, this is like the best marketing opportunity business brokers have, is to take these reports, take these slides, and instead of saying, hey, do you want to sell your business, just present information. Hey, I just want to keep you updated with what's going on, whether that's podcast or webinar or email marketing or, in person, or create a brochure that you mail out, whatever it might be. This is what the business owners are asking. They want to know these things. They need to be educated on preparing, so that when it is time, that confidence resumes, they at least know their value. They at least know their options. And so I think we're in a unique opportunity. Ever since 2 years ago with the PPP and all the federal relief, we became these, our industry became kind of more of an advisor to the business owner, and it just continues. And I think this is like free information that our industry needs to take advantage of. This is like great blog posts, there's great email marketing. So definitely take advantage of this. Learn it for yourselves, but then pass this information on to your business owner clients, to the buyers, to your centers of influence. This is a lot easier than saying, hey, do you want to sell your business? This is just education. So take advantage of it.
Yeah, and with that said, I encourage everyone to go to the BizBuySell Insight Report. You can just Google BizBuySell Insight Report, or if you can go down to the very bottom of our homepage, there's a link to it. And there's very deep interactive data tables where you can drill in by market, you can drill in by category. And being able to go in there and to show a potential seller, what it's like specifically in your market as well as around the country. It's powerful stuff.
Yeah, and one other note on that topic. So I didn't touch on it in this webinar, but in the last webinar for our Q3 Insight Report, we surveyed buyers and owners on confidence, on their level of confidence in the market. We do that every year in the third quarter. And in 2020, we saw this massive dip for owners, and buyers' confidence was through the roof. They thought they could get a great deal. And that flipped back in Q3, where owners are much more confident than buyers. So it really does feel like we're on our way. We're on the cusp. I'm really optimistic for 2022. I think as the year goes on, and hopefully inflation gets behind us and people return to work.
Steve is asking, and maybe there's just a general, or maybe you have a current number on this, but what percentage of businesses on market are selling? I mean, you guys have a kind of rule of thumb?
I've asked,
so get comp data for every deal, I guess you have it. So, but yeah, it's hard for, I mean, the IBBA touches on that. It's limited to so many transactions. So you can look at last week's for a little bit of insight on that. But any thoughts?
So I asked that question in our broker survey. I can't remember if it was this recent one or the one prior. And I want to say the number was close to 40%. That seemed a little high to me. But, the question was, of your inventory, what percentage sells? So not just on BizBuySell, in general.
Yeah.
That feels high to me. That feels high to me, Adam.
Yeah, we'll be asking that too in our survey. Maybe we can dig a little deeper between IBBA, BizBuySell, and BBD. We can help answer that a little bit more. But yeah, it does seem a little high from what I would guess, but depends on some variables there. But great. I don't know if anybody else wants to come online or ask their question. I'm not seeing anything that we missed today. We will have Adam and Doug on their, as soon as they wrap up their quarterly report. But as we said last week with with IBBA, I mean, the more responses we get from the brokerage community to our survey or BizBuySell's or IBBA's, the more input we can provide, the better the reports become. If you want to suggest questions, submit ideas, I would just say that I think all three companies are very open to your suggestions and thoughts, and don't feel like it's it just goes to a dead inbox. So we want to advance the industry, where I think collectively as a whole we're all looking to take this all forward. So be a part of that. Let us know how we can improve, whether it's just mechanics of BizBuySell or the reporting that they do, or the questions you might have. Same thing with IBBA Business Brokerage Press. But guys, I really appreciate everything you guys are doing, and it's been great to be on that advisory committee, and any way we can serve to advance the business brokerage M&A industries. That is definitely our objective. And if anybody has any follow-up questions, please contact Doug and Adam. You'll enjoy getting to know them better. George and I are here as well, and hope that we will see everybody next Tuesday. I believe it's Doug Robbins with RobinX, but I'm not looking at my notes, so I could be wrong, but I think that's right. So we'll be having again another webinar next Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern, and we're 3 months on, 1 month off, and every time that BizBuySell has a new report, we'll be sure to give you an update. So hope everybody has a great rest of your day and a great week.
Hey, Ron, I think I see one more question.
Yeah, go for it.
I saw it too.
Yeah, so Alan Steinberg, do you think businesses will be hard to sell when baby boomers get out? Millennials are not as entrepreneurs. So I have a few thoughts on that one. And I'm curious, I don't know how close we are to running out of time here.
No, we're good. We're ahead of schedule today.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we're not, so, as we talked about earlier, it doesn't seem like there's any shortage of buyers out there. They're looking for these opportunities. So I don't think we're going to have an issue in general. But in terms of millennials, not as entrepreneurs. So we do a demographic study every few years, and we're queued up to do one this year. Actually in a few weeks. God, this year's flying by. So we'll get a better idea on the age range of the people, at least looking on BizBuySell. But when we did this study back in, I believe it was 2018, we already saw that the demographics were leaning towards more of the younger ages. So I think the idea of buying your own business and being a business owner, especially with the Great Resignation, is really moving down towards that millennial, generation. So I'll have some better data on that to present in the next webinar, but I'm optimistic.
Yeah, I was going to chime in on that too, from what I've been seeing, and also some of the research that I've been looking at online. And I don't think you're not going to find that millennials don't want to own businesses, but I think that you're going to find that certain industries and sectors of our economy are going to suffer until people come in and pick up the vacuum. I mean, right off the top of our head, one of the things that we've got a major issue with electrical, plumbing, and HVAC right now. I mean, the average age of a business owner is over 56 years old. And because the younger people haven't been as exposed to tech and some of the things in their formative educations, they tend to look down on those industries, and they don't realize how much of a living they could really make off of them. So we're going to see a struggle in certain industries to, I think, get the education and the process out, and for the awareness to build that. There's an opportunity here to be able to make money. So I think a lot of them are more tech oriented, more asset light. I'm seeing more and more of that. I get so many inquiries all the time. What do you have in businesses that are asset light? And they're not as interested in brick and mortar anymore. So brick and mortar, I think, is going to go through a transition, and it's going to have to find its way to new ownership one way or another in the future.
I think it was like a year ago, maybe longer. We did the webinar with somebody. Glenn Cooper introduced us to somebody. I'm blanking on his name, but we should have him back. He's pretty well known on studying different generations and what makes each one distinct, and how a generation is defined. But it was interesting because he's talking about baby boomers not wanting to retire because of what they saw with their parents or grandparents and dying in recliners. And so there's this idea like that as we're seeing, it's taking longer to have them exit than maybe was anticipated. It'll be interesting to kind of see what other generations behind them, if they transfer businesses more quickly at an earlier age, if they're looking forward to retirement. So it'd be interesting to have him back on, just give us a little bit of a study of what do the next generations, what is defining them, and maybe some specific questions as it relates. So that's a great question. Something
Chuck Underwood
head at. So we'll do a little digging on that one as well, because I think that's if you haven't watched that webinar, it was one of my favorites, just because it was very different from an outside perspective of just talking about generational differences, and it really helped understand not just that type of information, but you've got a seller from one generation, a buyer from another generation, and just the tactics involved, like, shaking hands, looking each other in the eye, not being on your phone, those type of interesting things are fascinating. So I think the more we study that, even though it seems disconnected, I actually think we're seeing how relevant that is to our industry and our study. So it's pretty fascinating. I'll try to dig that up and
Chuck Underwood run.
What's that?
Chuck Underwood.
Thank you. Woo. Good job. Well, anyway, let's see. We got one more question. Put a phone number in there, so maybe this is a private thing afterwards. But I'm an expert in the sales of nursing homes and assisted living centers. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Yeah, that'd be great. We'll put down your information, Fred. Thanks for posting that. And I think that's it for us today, guys. I appreciate your time and all your efforts getting these reports done. And we'll be in touch soon as you guys roll out the next report. And thank you, everybody in attendance. If you'd like to rewatch this or like to get those slides, obviously they're available right now on BizBuySell. You can get the full report, but we'll get those to you as well this afternoon, along with the video. And hopefully we'll see you on next week's webinar. Thanks so much. Have a good one.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
everybody.